Moving into my new apartment on the top floor felt like a dream come true. The view was incredible, a sweeping panorama of the city skyline, its lights twinkling like distant stars. There was something almost magical about standing by the window, looking out over the world below, feeling as if I was alone in the sky. But that feeling of isolation soon turned into something else, something darker. It started on a Friday night. I had been up late scrolling through my phone in the dim light when I felt an inexplicable chill creep through the room. I glanced up, my gaze drifting toward the window, and that's when I saw him. A man was standing outside my window, staring right at me. It didn't make any sense. There was no ledge, no balcony, just a sheer drop to the pavement stories below. He couldn't be there, and yet he was, his face illuminated faintly by the glow of the city. He wore a wide, unsettling smile, his eyes unblinking, as if he'd been waiting for me to notice him. For a moment, I just froze, my mind racing to make sense of what I was seeing. I reached for my phone, fumbling to take a picture, but when I looked back up, he was gone. Just an empty window, the reflection of my own bewildered face staring back. I told myself it was my imagination, maybe a trick of the light, but sleep didn't come easy that night. Every sound from the street below made me flinch, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The next morning I laughed it off, convincing myself that I was just overtired, but then it happened again. And again, each night he appeared always outside my window, always with that same chilling smile. Sometimes he was farther away, his form barely visible in the shadows. Other times he was closer, his face so near to the glass that I could almost make out the curve of his lips, the gleam of his teeth. I tried to tell my friends, but they didn't take me seriously. They joked that I needed to lay off the late-night horror movies. I even called the building's security, but they found no sign of anyone lurking around the top floor. They chalked it up to stress and insomnia, and I began to wonder if maybe they were right. But then came the night when everything changed. I was lying in bed, the room pitch dark except for the faint glow of the city outside. That's when I heard a soft, rhythmic tapping against the glass. Tap, tap, tap. My skin prickled as I sat up, dread clawing at my chest. Slowly, I turned toward the window, and there he was again. This time, he was right against the glass, his face inches away, that smile stretching impossibly wide. And then he whispered my name. It wasn't a shout or a call. It was a hushed, intimate sound, like he was standing right beside me, breathing into my ear. I stumbled out of bed, nearly tripping over myself as I scrambled to turn on the lights. When I looked back, he was gone, leaving nothing but my own panicked reflections staring back at me. That night, I barely slept. My mind raced with questions. Who was this man, and how was he defying the laws of physics to appear outside my window? I spent the next day obsessively searching for any explanation, any rational answer. But there was nothing. No news of strange occurrences in the area, no reports of someone climbing the building. Desperate, I began asking around the building, talking to neighbors. Most of them brushed me off, but then a middle-aged woman on the floor below mine hesitated. She told me she'd heard rumors, stories of a shadowy figure seen outside windows. People said that those who saw him up close disappeared. She lowered her voice, glancing nervously toward the hallway before she spoke again. My sister used to live on the top floor, too. She mentioned seeing someone like that. A few days later, she vanished. The police never found her. Her words left me cold. That night, I locked my doors, closed the curtains, and tried to convince myself it was all a bad dream. But deep down, I knew it was real. The fear gnawed at me, growing with each passing moment. Then came the night I couldn't hide from anymore. I woke to the sound of a slow, deliberate knock on the window. My whole body went rigid with fear, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might burst through my chest. I forced myself to turn toward the window, my hands clutching the blanket like a lifeline. There he was, closer than ever, his face almost pressed against the glass. His smile was wider, stretching unnaturally, revealing teeth that seemed too sharp, too many. And his eyes, they were no longer human. They glowed faintly in the dark, like a predator's. "I've been watching you," he whispered, the words muffled but clear. "It's almost time." I lunged for my phone, desperate to capture proof, but my hands were shaking too much to unlock it. When I looked back, the window was empty again, the shadows mocking me with their silence. But I knew he was still out there waiting. The following morning, I made up my mind I had to leave. I began packing, barely stopping to catch my breath, but even as I moved through the apartment, I felt his presence like a shadow lurking just beyond my vision. As night fell, I sat on my packed suitcase, clutching my phone with trembling hands, counting down the minutes until morning. But then a knock echoed through the apartment. Not on the window on my front door. I froze, my mind screaming that it couldn't be him. He couldn't be inside, but as I crept toward the door, I saw the shadow beneath it, and then a whisper, my name drawn out, each syllable dripping with malice. My legs gave out beneath me, and I collapsed, crawling backward until my back hit the wall. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying for it to be over, but the knocking continued, relentless. And then silence. I don't know how long I stayed like that, curled up on the floor, trembling. When I finally opened my eyes, the apartment was dark and empty, but the dread never left. It's still with me, following me like a shadow, a constant reminder that he's out there, waiting. And tonight, as I sit in my empty apartment, I hear it again, a faint tap on the window like a finger brushing against the glass. I don't look up, I don't dare, but I know he's there, and I know he's smiling.